Who eats like that? Shovels it in.
Gamers is doing pretty good.
Let's go.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of 5 Idiots Talking Toys. I'm Shane, and it is another Sunday night episode of this podcast. Thanks for joining us on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast app. Please like and subscribe to the channel. We'd appreciate the support. Tonight, we are going to talk about the current state of the toy shelves. Let's get a hearty, healthy, vigorous conversation from Lord Walden. Hello, sir.
Hello, Shane.
Charles is coming to us with minimal eyebrows and from the nail salon.
I didn't touch my eyebrows. It's the lights. It's this new room. I actually look pretty good like this. I might stay in this room.
Awesome. Chris has something to say about your hat brim. He's even tucked his brim away.
For this topic, we will not be needing gloves ever again for these kind of toys. Done.
Brandon is not for sale, but he's here to talk toys.
Oh, I'm for sale. Trust me. Somebody wants this. Somebody wants a piece of this.
Yeah, Charles wants a piece of those eyebrows.
Brandon does have very thick, very luscious, very black eyebrows.
I did use a Sharpie tonight. You used a pencil.
Your eyebrows are not straight, though. They're all over the place.
They're unmanageable.
They're wildly. All right, so let's talk about the current state of the toy shelves, and we say shelves because not the toy business, not the toy industry, not the big toy companies. When you go into a brick and mortar store, whatever it be, all the way from Target to Walmart, down to GameStop and in Best Buy, where they even have some toy shelves, where you bring, kids, where you see kids able to physically see toys, commercials are pretty much out the window. It's all streaming ads and whatnot, but they're not seeing toy ads the way that we used to, where you'd be watching a cartoon and all the toys would come up, and that's how they'd sell toys. Let's talk about the state of kids, in a brick and mortar store or where they could be in their lives and see toys and see toy lines and be, kind of use their imagination and want those toys to play with. It's a much different environment than we had, right, guys?
Oh yeah, definitely,
completely.
Yep.
Yeah, kids just don't play with action figures anymore. Not much.
Well,
there's also not a real toy store to go into anymore to buy them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think of Target and Walmart, to me, I'm sorry, those are not toy stores.
And that's the thing. They're the number one toy stores in the country now.
I know.
By default,
Those are not toy stores to me.
Well, they're expanding their toy sections a lot more than what they had before or after Toys R Us closed down. It was minimal, and now they're trying to pick up the slack.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Because I've seen them grow.
Yeah. I've actually read articles where, they changed their, some of the direction of their business when Toys R Us went under. There was absolutely a shift physically in the Target stores where the toy sections expanded.
So now some of the Targets have a Disney store that was added.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like a separate section next to the toy aisles that's focuses on just Disney like merch and also like Marvel and Star Wars.
Yeah.
In addition to the normal shelves that have the same things. So they expanded all that and have like a movie playing constantly there and have that's like there's carpet on the floor and there's a bunch of, Mickey Mouse heads all over the place and make you feel like you're in a Disney store. Because I don't know about you guys, but they closed all the Disney stores around me. I don't know if they closed them around you guys too, but the actual ones in the malls and stuff, those we don't have them anymore.
Yeah, they were there for a long time, and
Yeah.
now they're not there anymore.
I'll tell you, I mean, I cannot remember the last time I was in a mall, and I'm in New Jersey where we have a lot of malls, and it's because this is the area for the New Yorkers to come. People who do live in the city, they don't have full-fledged open malls, like there's no space for it. So there's a lot of people that come from the city, around the city, to New Jersey to shop. I can't remember the last time I was in a mall. I just don't go anywhere near them. I have no reason to, and so I couldn't tell you what stores are there, but I've heard that Disney stores have closed, and now you're in big box stores basically for toys.
That's sad.
That's probably why no one's buying them.
Well, I just remember back in the 80s and 90s when there was these movies that would come out like Terminator, or TV shows like $6 Million Man, or MacGyver, or Magnum PI, or
Keep going. What else?
Yeah.
I mean,
A-Team,
You
did you say that?
A-Team.
Dukes of Hazzard.
You need like 3 toy lines. Keep going.
I mean, even Blue Thunder had toys.
I mean, John was
Blue Beetle?
Wow,
Jesus.
John was in college, or John was probably on his fifth job when when these movies came out in the 80s. John, what other toy lines do you remember other than? I mean, there's toy lines. There's so many of them that I don't even know half of them. I see them all the time being promoted for sale, and I'm just like, I have never even seen that.
There's a point where they made a toy about everything, just about.
Yeah. Keep in mind where you guys are, or Brandon, you're naming, action series, cartoons for, 6, 7 up to 12-year-olds. There was also toys for every cartoon for young Smurfs, Snorks, gummy bears, later on. You like
come from
Snorks, remember that?
You don't remember Snorks?
They were like basically Smurfs underwater, but they had like the like L-shaped thing on their head.
I remember them.
I mean, there were toys for that. There were toys for, and then also, we're just talking about mostly, toys that boys are interested in. Think about how many toy lines there were for girls at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You see very little of that now. Polly Pocket was later. Rainbow Bright, My Little Pony, Strawberry Shortcake. I mean, there were full lines. Cabbage Patch Dolls.
Bernstein Bears.
All I see now is that they're rehashing. They're rehashing all of that.
Yeah.
Like, how many iterations of Ninja Turtles do we need?
Yeah.
I mean, if there's not a TV show out, and if kids are not watching the TV shows with commercials promoting those toys, who the hell's going to go buy them in? Anyway, so they can do all they want.
Adults are buying it. Adults are buying them for nostalgia.
And that's exactly what it is.
Most of the toys now are priced out for kids. Who's going to buy a $25 Spider-Man from the new Spider-Man movie for their kid? I'm not doing that.
Who? 50-year-old, bald, lives in his mom's basement, loves Spider-Man.
Don't worry, John. You're not 50, and you don't live in your mom's basement.
We were kids buying these toys. We didn't look at things as adults look at them, being political and prices and stuff like that. Kids just wanted what they wanted, and they got it from their parents. If grown men are going into stores buying this stuff, and things are being politically divided and stuff, a lot of things are not going to be bought just for stupid reasons.
I see grown men devouring the Hot Wheels section out of every store that I go to.
Oh yeah, every time there's a new dump, like they have these big bins.
You mean at that, like the houses that you build?
Yeah. What kind of dump are we talking about?
Yeah, it's like a new dump.
They have like these big bins at Walmart and stuff, and then they go in there and just dump, all these new Hot Wheels in there, and people are, guys that are, they're just picking through it all the time.
I had no idea that they still made Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
Oh, there's whole aisles of them.
Oh, there's Hot Wheels that are worth in the hundreds that are coming out right now.
I don't go to Walmart and Target. I stay far away from those stores. So I wouldn't have a
remember when Chris didn't know that there was a Walmart down the street from his house?
Yeah, there's like 15 Walmarts like within 15 minutes of us.
I'll never forget that for the rest of my life. He's like, we don't have Walmart on Long Island, and Charles is like, there's literally 6 within 10 minutes of your house.
Like, I'll never walk like Walmart's. Like the one thing I just do not go in.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going in. I go to Target though all the time.
Yeah. I feel like I end up people watching when I go to Walmart more than shopping because it's just like such an array of people in there. So
That's the only place that
Bunch of
John can
wild
find
animals.
that's the only place that John can be in pursuit of.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
right.
But look at that. He's in pursuit of this toy line that, I mean, what is that, a cartoon or something? No, it's a rehash of old figures, right? And right
Yeah,
next to that is Ninja Turtles, the 15th generation of them, a rehash of the same figures. Even they've rehashed the rehash on those, on the
Yeah.
old Playmates figures from the 80s. They made a 90s version, a 2010, and like a 2021 and a 2024. I mean, I don't
Here's
know.
here's a really good example of what's going on. My son is 4. He had a couple of classmates come over the house to play. They were downstairs in the basement. And Grayson has a lot of toys, like figures, Turtles, Spider-Man, Star Wars, whatever. They only knew what Spider-Man was. They didn't know what Turtles was. They didn't know any of this stuff. They don't have any of it. All they do is they sit on their iPads and they play on their iPad.
Yeah.
And none of them play with toys. So they had no idea who any of these characters even were,
Mhm.
or that there was even shows or movies out.
Yeah. My son goes through waves. Like I've been saying to him lately, like TV off. Like when this episode is done in 2 minutes, TV off. And because he's raring to go to literally start a movie. Like he'll watch 3 episodes of something and then think he's going to start like an hour and a half movie. I'm like, no. You're done now. It's 75 degrees and sunny outside. Go outside.
Yeah,
But we, just a month and a half ago, I told you we bought him a whole bag of army figures, the old school army figures, and little planes and buildings that go with him to build a whole military base. He goes nuts. He builds this whole thing. Like he loves building it more than fighting the war. So he'll go in waves, and I'm happy with that because
of course.
I hear plenty of parents saying what you're saying, where kids his age, 7 years old, they don't play with toys at all, like no action figures or anything at all. And there's creativity behind all that. There's some development skills behind that.
Just last night we were down here in the basement, and Grayson was like, "Will you stay down here with me? I want to play with I want to play with toys." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he's taking the cars and he's going on the floor and he's taking the figures and he's bouncing them around. And I'm just like, no other kids right now are really doing this. And I was happy he was.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm at the age where I have so many things I feel like I need to be doing and want to do around. Like as soon as I'm done with work, I've got 5 things to do. And I have to stop myself every time because if my son says, "Will you play with me?" Do I want to get down on the floor, my hands and knees, and play with little army figures? I don't mind it, but I'm, usually my headspace is somewhere else. No, I got to stop and encourage that, and feed into it because he's only going to have a small time to do it.
My son does the same thing. Hey, do you want to play with this down on the floor? I'm like, no. I'm like, you need to bring those toys to the table or the couch so I can play with them there. I don't do the
his
floor.
Bad back.
I can't do the floor.
Yeah. Yeah, I just have to always remember that. If I do love board games, so that's a little bit easier. If somebody says to me, "Will you play a game with me?" I usually jump at that, or cards.
My favorite thing is my son tells me to get him a Lego set. Right, he's big in the Super Mario Lego sets. They made these Mario Lego sets now. Charles, you've probably seen them.
I love them.
They're the Mario's like this big, and he comes with like a bar scanner on the bottom or whatever, and it sees a color, and then it has a screen on it.
Oh.
And he'll talk and stuff. They're super cool. And that whole play set. So we'll get him a play set. He'll help me build the first figure for the first 5 minutes, and then he wanders off. And there I am stuck building the entire play set for 2 hours. And they use an app now on your phone. They don't even come with books anymore.
Yeah.
Most of the sets I buy, I open them. He only wants the figures, and we never put the set together. So now I just skip the set. I buy the figures online and just skip the whole process of the.
Because you're left with all this stuff.
Everything.
Yeah.
I think the whole toy market in general is just dying a very slow death right now, and a lot of people just don't realize it because John is 67 years old and he's buying superpowers in the background of every episode, going wee wee.
Well, I mean,
How many
remember the
7 or 8 year olds are doing that?
Remember the invisible hand? John was like,
The invisible jet.
yeah.
The invisible jet.
Well,
Kids are not doing that.
Well, because look what Kenner did. Hasbro. They released the figures from Indiana Jones, right? That were never released before. And that line lasted what? Like 5 minutes?
Yeah.
And then people were like, all right, on to something else.
That's every Indiana Jones line since the 80s when it first came out.
Yeah.
But I think if they started with these 2 new Dune movies came out, I haven't seen a Dune figure.
Well, you make an interesting point. You were kind of
John, have you seen one? No, all right, I haven't seen.
I don't think so.
You were kind of leaning
really
towards
cool
the idea that everyone has a short attention span these days, adults included. So, us collectors, as long as we can stick with something, it's probably more than the average person. And the more novice collectors, they're interested in something for like a month, and then they're on to something else.
There's just not enough money.
Nobody wants this stuff. The only
That's the
reason
thing.
most of the people are buying it is for resale. That's it.
It would not,
kids
back
don't
then.
want it.
Kids
No.
used to play with toys, and they used to come out with all these movie and toy lines. Like I'm sure if Dune came out, they did make Dune toys back in the 80s, right? So
They did, yeah.
Oh,
LG.
yeah. They
Now
have the
they
old
won't-
ones, but
they're not making it because it costs too much to make these toys, to produce them, to market them, to put them out on the shelves, only for 2 weeks later nobody wants them anymore. So maybe that's why they don't do them. I don't know, but I mean, I would think that they would come out with different toy lines for these different movies coming out. I mean, we got a new Alien movie coming out.
I mean,
think they would put out some Alien figures.
If you have a choice between making a Dune toy line or a Dune video game for kids on their iPad, they're probably going to go with the video game because toy line figures. I'm sorry, but it's just a dying breed.
Yeah. Let's state the obvious. So much of the toy industry now is making toys for adult collectors.
Adults.
Yeah. Even toys that appear to be more, based towards kids, more, infantile. There's some sect of collectors out there collecting them. I mean, there's guys out there collecting My Little Ponies and things that years back you wouldn't have thought they would have, and so a bunch of the shelf space is now more expensive action figures, more detailed figures for the collectors, and the average parent is not going to buy their child a $34 deluxe Black Series figure.
That's why I buy the Super 7 figures when I find them really cheap, because they're the only toy line. They're the only producer of toy lines from like the 80s and 90s that we all like.
But the problem is that you're buying them.
Yeah.
So in the long run, it's really not doing the company any good, because once you stop buying them in your generation, who's going to buy them?
Well, I mean, how many more are they going to come out with that I'm going to buy? I'm already at my limit of Alien. I mean, the other day I bought a Terminator 2 one that they had, right? Because it was open and somebody had it for $1,
I mean, they're all really cool and they're all really awesome. But like, Shane said, at the same time, it's the adults buying them. So they're basically... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that right now they're just grasping at straws right now, trying to hold on as long as.
Yeah, and Hasbro's come out with that. We talked about it before, the Epic Hero line, and it goes across.
Yeah,
I mean, DC and
Star
Wars and stuff like that. They're trying to get kids into it, because they're $9, which still seems like, this does not seem like a $9 figure. This seems like a, $5 figure or whatever. But $9 is the new $5. So, but yeah, they're attempting to. They're attempting to try to get kids drawn in, but there's nothing really collectible about these guys, you know? I mean,
Well, maybe
Look
that's
at
a good
not right
part.
now.
That's a
Look
good
at the
thing.
Black Manta. Like, no kid wants that. What kid is sitting at home saying, "Mommy, I want the Black Manta"?
No
Manta,
kid
whatever.
knows what a black manta is. I still
Exactly.
don't know what black manta is.
I don't know what judo officer is from the
I don't-
last Wins and Whiffs episode.
I don't
Judo
either, but-
master.
If you
but,
showed
like,
me,
John wants this. So, like, there's a lot of people his age or like around his age. What are you, like 85 now, John? A lot of people like his age like want this like black manta. Like, who is that and what is that? There's no kid that wants that.
you can show me 3 figures on the screen right now, and one of them is Black Manta, I wouldn't have the slightest idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
And nobody collects comic books anymore either. You know,
That's
as
not
far as,
true.
like,
That's not true.
Yeah.
Nobody reads comic books
the
anymore.
younger generation. Oh, well,
John
yeah.
Rollo.
People collect them to grade them and put them in plastic. Nobody
They don't
actually
read 'em,
reads
yeah.
them.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah.
read 'em.
Rolo said they still collect them.
Yeah. Well,
But John,
What-
like those figures that, I mean, I don't see kids playing with any of those figures you're just talking about.
Yeah, no.
None.
No, what, the Epic Heroes?
So
Well, you said that they are not collectible.
I don't think. I mean, they could be eventually. Who knows? Whenever this generation,
I know that, but that's the idea. I think why they created it, to not be collectibles.
yeah,
So
they
that way
created it
kids
for kids
would
to play
with
with.
it.
Yeah,
They need to create toys because they're coming out with these legends, the Marvel Legends for $25. Some of these, the new Spider-Man movie, the Into the Spider-Verse or whatever, those figures are $25, $30 figures.
Yeah.
Like, no one's gonna buy those for their kids.
no, they're
Yeah.
for collectible. They're for
I-
collectors for real.
I'll buy them for my kids when they're.
I have to.
Well, I mean, my son breaks
When they're
every
in
head off
Ollie's for
every
$10.
figure, so
Yeah.
I'll get them used before I buy those new. But
Yeah.
well,
I mean-
that's why I also like these retro collection figures, because the collectors complain about how flimsy the cards are. I don't complain about that, because I like that they're making an $11.99 figure, which seems reasonable compared to everything else. They're in the old Kenner style. I know this is a remake, but I like the figures that are from the newer stuff that they never, obviously they never made before. Kids can get these for $12, or you can buy some for a kid's birthday. You can buy 3 or 4 of them and not feel bad.
No one's
But-
buying that.
But kids are not buying it. That's
they're
the
not buying it.
problem. Shane is buying it. Kids are not buying it.
No, I mean,
So-
I bought. Yeah, you're right. I bought them for my son. He's got a
Shane's
bunch of them.
forcing Star Wars on his son.
I feel like it's very safe to say that this is the last generation to be doing this with toys, because the next generation didn't grow up with toys. There's going to
What
be
are they going to be nostalgic for? Though,
There's
I wonder?
exactly. They're not going to be
iPad.
attached to any of this stuff.
iPad.
So they're
Yeah,
not going to collect this stuff and be like, "Oh, you know what? I'm in my 40s now. I need to It's not going to be any of this stuff because they didn't grow up with it.
I know our kids are, because we forced. I mean, my son, the same thing. It's like a Toy
Far
Story.
and few. Yeah, it's far and few.
Well, we're a generation that's kind of in between, actually. Even though that we were at the height of the toy line industry, the toy industry in the 80s and early 90s, but we also are nostalgic for video games. Going back to, for me, original Nintendo into Super Nintendo, into N64,
Genesis.
into PlayStation. I wasn't Sega. I mean, my friends had Sega, but some people who are younger than me, they're like, oh yeah, PlayStation was my first system, whatever, that's me in, college. But going forward, it's going to be all video games.
But there's nothing tangible about the video games that they're going to be nostalgic for, because it's all data. It's all blips. It's all binary.
Well, it's not that it's not tangible. It's not tangible in the sense that it's not going to be physical, right? They're not going to have discs. They're not going to have cartridges.
It's not going to be tactile.
It's also not going to have the same nostalgia, because they're going to have access to those at any point in their life. It's not like you're going to go to a toy show and you're going to see a toy you haven't seen in 35 years.
Yeah.
You're going to say,
I
"Oh,
guess not.
remember that Harry Potter game I played? Yeah, it's digital. It's available my whole life. I could play it
Can
anytime
I stop
I
you
want."
two?
Yeah.
You two are on the wrong show. We don't use binary and textile. Like we that's not the show. I don't know what show you guys are on.
Tactile, textile.
But another thing too is like when we were kids, how did we pay for the toys? Did our parents buy them for us?
Yes.
Yes, but
Mine didn't buy them for me.
Well, John, because when these
It was
toys came
holidays.
out, you had a job
No.
in a car.
No, I didn't get toys like on it
smoking and
for no
drinking
reason. No, it was
Well-
holidays and birthdays.
Allowance.
I didn't even have that.
John had an hourly wage at that point.
I used allowance money to buy my Star Wars figures.
I mean,
Yeah.
Charles and I would be shoveling snow in the winter, and
Yeah.
I was mowing lawn sometimes.
I
in the
remember
summer, and
I remember having allowance money, and I would buy video games with it because I would save it. And video games were how much were Super Nintendo games back in the day? Like $60.
Yeah,
50, yeah.
regular
Yeah.
Nintendo NES games
Were $60.
Were $50 when
they've
it first
kind
came
of
out.
always been $49.99.
Yeah,
Yes.
why were they so
Yes.
damn expensive?
And if
That's
you
a lot
and if
of
you
money back then.
compare that to the price now, that's the one thing that's kind of the inverse.
Yeah, they're like $20 because they're CDs. They're cheap.
Well, I don't mean that. I just mean they stayed $50 or $60 for like 20 years.
Yeah, for a long time.
And now games are like, 60 to 70.
For
But
brand new.
$50 in 1987? Imagine how much
Some are
money
free.
that is.
Do you actually buy a game anymore? Like, is there a physical game, or is it all just downloaded onto your system now?
You can buy the physical games, but I was reading an article right after Christmas that the divide between digital and physical is so huge now that most people don't realize. It's like 70% digital now. So
Yeah.
that's why GameStop was going out of business.
And that's
Because-
exactly
I love the fact that I can go to GameStop and I can get used games for $15-$20 or even cheaper sometimes at the flea market for like $5 or whatever. And I find old Nintendo games all the time for a few bucks and I just pick them up, so
See, that's going to go away though for the games that are being released right now. They're only making enough to sell like 30% of the overall,
Yeah.
and that's going to keep going down. So let's say 5 years from now, it's like 90-10.
but
GameStop is going to have no used games to sell. They're not going to exist.
I don't play any games though. I mean, I'll
still
turn on
do
the
that.
Nintendo or Super Nintendo once every few months. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just talking.
I'm
for
not.
Me, it's
I'm not like you. I
Switch
know
with my
you're gonna
kids.
play World of Warcraft Part 8 as soon as we hang up here.
no, I haven't
and-
played video
and-
games in
and
10 years.
Stream
here.
it with your. Where's your mic on that? Don't you have a mic built into that headset?
Chris has got a mic right there. I think you're on World of Warcraft, Chris.
I'm on Warcraft right now.
No, I joked with a relative of mine who had kids before us, and I said, "Well, don't you like sit down after they go to bed and like play a game of Madden?" And he was like, "What are you crazy?" And I said, "No, but like you don't play any video games anymore." And he's like, "I don't have time for that." He goes, "Just wait and see. Wait till you have kids." I literally had a baby, and I don't think I've played a video game since. And now I'm only playing when I sit down with my son or daughter on their Switch they just got for Christmas. So
Yeah, my son plays my Super Nintendo, and I'll help him play some of the games on there. But I'll
Yeah.
just watch him play, or we'll play 2-player or something like that. And my daughters used to play Lego Star Wars on PS4 a long time ago, I think.
Yep, we have it. Yep.
They used to love that game, so we would sit there and play before my son was born, and they loved that game, and they would play. We'd play that together, but you never saw me playing Lego Star Wars after they went to bed.
No,
No,
Yeah,
but it's I was just
I'm
going to say
afraid
real
to
quick, it's so funny because I haven't played their whole lives. They've never seen me play video games ever. And then they get Switch and I sit down with them and, a couple of games I've never seen before in my life. Doesn't matter. If you grew up playing video games, you can play video games. So, then they put on Mario Kart and I'm destroying them. And they're like, they played a couple times at their friend's house or a relative's house and they never see me play. And we play the first time, I'm destroying them. And they're like, "Dad, what?" Like they couldn't understand why I could play the game and how I was so good at the game. I'm like, Because I played Mario Kart 20 years ago. Like, it's the same game. I don't need to, like, practice Mario Kart. It's just in my brain. I can play it.
I'm
So they were
afraid
kind
to
of blown
play
away.
games because I still love playing games. I just know I don't have the time to do it. But I've been holding myself back from buying that Nintendo that has like the 500 games built in.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it saves everything, and it's like a little small system. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and it's cheap too. It's not even expensive. I think it's like $100, maybe $50.
Yeah, they have an
And
Atari like that too.
And I'm like, I just keep holding myself back from buying it because I'm like, I don't want my wife to walk downstairs while the baby's upstairs crying. One boy is outside, like in the backyard. The other one's in the front yard, and I'm down here playing video because that's what would happen.
Yeah.
You get sucked into it.
Yeah.
Wait, don't worry. I'll come over and I'll bring the video games. I'll bring the video games and the bourbon, and then we'll sit there, and then we won't even know what's going on.
Well,
I
all
still
the
play
years.
Fortnite all the time.
Oh, you do?
I love it.
All the years I was dating my wife, like 6 or 7 years before we got married. I mean, she'd go to bed earlier than I did, but even when she was awake around the house, I was playing Call of Duty. I was on with friends playing. I wouldn't play against the little kids. I'd only play against like friends of mine online. But I'd play Call of Duty, Madden, Assassin's Creed, Dead Space, all those, Gears of War, all that stuff. I loved it all. But once I had kids, I was like, and the house too. Once I got a house and kids at the same time, I was like, I got too much stuff to do, man. I don't have time for this nonsense.
Yeah, we go on deployment. We'll set up 2 TVs and we'll put 2 like Xboxes together, and we'll play Halo with like 10 people. And
yeah,
Well, that's fun.
But only when you have time.
Well, we're off on a tangent of video games, but there you go. I mean, we're being nostalgic about some of our games, but this is where the kids' minds are at these days. They want to play on a screen. As they get older, they want to play online with their friends, Fortnite and stuff. So I think that's where it's headed. And Brandon, you had a good point earlier about all the retro stuff. All the rehashing of every line. It goes all the way down to the lowest common denominator. You've seen over the last couple of years, they're re-releasing all those Fisher-Price toys, like the little telephone you drag on a string and the little record player. I mean, they're doing that. The kids don't want that stuff. They're doing it so that we buy the exact same toy that we had, 35, 40 years ago and give it to our kid. It's all a sales marketing thing. They're not making toys that kids want.
No, they're making toys that we remember, so we buy them for our kids so that they can play.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, we would walk through the store a couple of years ago with my daughter at Christmas time. They had all those rainbow high dolls. They're like dolls with different color. They're like teenagers. There was some sort of Netflix series around it. She was so hyped on these dolls, and I got her like 4 or 5 of them for Christmas. I joke with her to this day. I don't think I ever saw her play with those dolls one single time. And they're like $30-something a piece. And I'm like, never again am I buying you these dolls that you see in the store and want, because you get them home, you don't really want them. It's just like a spur of the moment thing you see on a shelf.
It's a waste of money.
It's a waste of money.
So what's the moral of the story after all this?
I think kids are not invested in physically playing with toys. I think they like some other things like games and puzzles and of course, screens and tablets. But I don't think the infrastructure, the things in our life is there to support a toy line. There's no commercials. There's not really prolific cartoons to support a toy line. They made cartoons in the past just to support the toy line. They came out with He-Man, Masters of the Universe, and then made a cartoon to advertise it. Like it was the opposite. I mean, it was genius marketing.
Toys in general are a dying breed. I think it's just going to get worse over the next 20 years. Charles and I grew up. We were on our bikes every day outside. You couldn't keep me inside. We were outside every day playing basketball, stickball, whatever the hell the case may be. Just kids outside in the streets. That's why Halloween is not really Halloween anymore. kids don't go outside. Like my nephew, he's inside. He's 13. He's playing video games all the time, and everyone and they're yelling at him. They're like, "Go outside! Go outside!" Kids don't go outside. They sit inside and they play on video games and their iPads. And that's it.
And you hear go outside. No, I mean they're essentially saying no, and you can't make me.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
and
what are you going to do with your kid?
And it was the opposite for us growing up, which is just funny.
Yeah. John lived outside. He wasn't even allowed in the house.
Yeah.
He still lives
I built
outside.
a shed out of pallets.
I mean, John had his own apartment.
Made out of pallets. It's a 2-story walk-up.
Yeah. We did make a playhouse out in the backyard out of pallets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there we go, folks. That's our rundown of the toy industry right now. It's really collectibles, re-releases, rehashes of old toy lines to sell to us idiots.
It's the same thing as TV shows and movies. They're kind of running out of ideas. What are they doing? They're just remaking old stuff. They're making part 3s and 4s. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying they're just running out of things to do. So
most of the remakes that they've made of like standalone movies
of anything,
are have not been good. I mean, you know, like you see comedians getting cast in a remake.
I think every one of them is terrible. Yeah,
you know, 3 O'Clock High and you know things like that, and it's just like, you know,
did they redo that one?
Yeah, they redid it with Ice Cube or something.
Really?
He was I didn't even see it, but I love that original movie.
Oh yeah.
And Ice Cube was a teacher or something.
I just watched the remake of Strangers, like the new one that they came out with, Strangers, and like
they already remade it.
Yeah.
What's Strangers?
And they wanted to do like
the horror movie,
a part 2 and like a part 3. It's supposed to be like, you know, a couple of parts to this thing before they already came out. It was so bad. Like, I'm not watching any more of them. I'm done now.
Yeah.
Yeah. How far have you gotten further in that than Ahsoka?
I have. When it comes to Ahsoka and Acolyte and all those, I haven't watched one episode. And
I don't dare mention Acolyte to you guys.
And I never will.
Don't even bring that up.
That's another episode. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of 5 Idiots Talking Toys. Thanks very much for hanging out with us. Please like the video, comment, and let us know what you think of the toy shelves in the brick and mortars around and the kids, you know, the selection the kids have these days.
Comment.
We will, comment. We'll interact with you there. We'll see you next time. Please subscribe to the channel and check out our Patreon, patreon.com/5 Idiots Talking Toys. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.